Hi, I'm Peggy Farren. Welcome to the Understand Photography Show, where we talk about travel, nature, and fine art photography. Today, our producer, Heather Musingo, and I will be discussing the importance of a photography mentor and how to find one. The Understand Photography Show is first a podcast, so if you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook and you're wondering why we don't have any visuals, that's why. You can listen to us on iTunes or Stitcher or however you listen to podcasts, but of course we put the behind the scenes on YouTube and Facebook. Actually, we do a Facebook watch party every Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, so join us and we can watch together. We have a couple of Facebook groups while you're on Facebook. If you just go to facebook.com/understandphotography on the left side, is it the left side? I think it's the left side. Towards the bottom it says groups. If you click on that, we have two different groups. The first one is just called Understand Photography Group. That's for general photography questions, for kind of showing off your work. Joe Fitzpatrick started Monochrome Mondays and whatever Wednesdays. He started it actually as Wildlife Wednesdays, but then I guess he ran out of some pictures, so he changed it to whatever, whatever Wednesday. So you can post. If you want critiquing, you have to ask for it. We try to keep it a very happy place, a very safe place. So if you do want some critiquing of a picture, you just have to ask. The other group is Selling Your Photography as Art. That is for people who are interested in selling their photography as artists. So people who are, want to sell your work on the internet. You want to sell, maybe you're going to go to art shows. You want to get into galleries. That group is a kind of a support group where we talk about and give ideas on how to sell your photography. So I hope you'll join it. It's free. Facebook groups are free. So join us. So today, Heather Musingo, who is our executive producer here at the Understand Photography Show, and she was behind the scenes for a couple of years, and now she's in front of the camera because she's just grown so big shot. So we're going to talk about mentoring today.
Hi Peggy, thanks for having me.
So you're in charge of asking questions.
All right, so today's topic is mentoring.
Okay.
So first let's define what is a mentor.
Okay, well I think what people think of a mentor is a very formal situation, which it can be, but it doesn't have to be. So a formal situation is a bad word, but I can't think of another one. But a formal mentor would be somebody who you would say, here, critique my work. What should I do about, my business? Should I be going in this direction or that direction or whatever? Something, a mentor would be helping you with your business, improve your photography and helping you grow your business. So it's a very one-sided relationship in a way, where you're kind of needy and the mentor is helping you. Yeah. So most mentorships are not that way. I think
the ones that are, though, you need to pay for.
Sometimes.
A lot of times.
Sometimes. There are ways around that. Should we talk about that now? Because I know you don't like, I'll talk about that later.
We can talk about it now.
Okay. Okay, so if you're going to have a formal mentorship, there may be more than one, but there is one organization that is called SCORE. It used to stand for Service Corps of Retired Executives, but now you looked it up, right?
I looked it up. I don't think that it stands for anything. It's just, this is what we do now.
And that is just free mentorship. That's a government program through the Small Business Association. I don't know if it started off as a government program, but it is now. So retired executives volunteer their time to help up-and-coming business people. So I think it's a great program. You just have to be really careful about, I've only tried it once, but I know other people who have done it and had better luck than I did. So I keep saying I'm going to do it again. I just haven't gotten to it. When I called and got a mentor, they just paired me up, and I didn't know anything, right? So, they paired me up with, I guess, whoever was available. And it was a guy who had never had a small business in his life. He was a hotel executive. He started as, right out of college, started as in management at a hotel and, was very successful, but he always worked at big companies. So he couldn't relate to me and my struggles. One of the first things he told me was that I needed to trademark my company name, because it was just when I was starting to understand photography. And so luckily I had a lawyer that I was bartering with, so I didn't have to pay for the lawyer fees, but just the government fees to fill in forms were over $700.
Wow.
And I got rejected because understand photography is too common. And so he's like, well, just put in an appeal. That was like his only advice to me, so I was very frustrated with him.
So how did you deal with the bad fit?
I didn't. I just okay, thank you, and I never called him again. But I do know people because I have recommended SCORE for many years to other people who have had really good luck.
Okay.
So my advice is, just be picky about who they match you up with. Just say, I need somebody who understands small business, because, and especially if you can find somebody who understands your business, it's even better. But chances are you're not going to get somebody in the photography business, but you might get somebody who had a small business who, can help you, can look at your business critically.
Okay.
And that's why I keep saying I'm going to go back, because, one of my goals is to grow the internet part of our business. And I'm busy spinning plates.
You are.
And I'm doing too many things, but I'm afraid to let go of anything because I need the money, I need the money, I need the money. So I would like somebody to just sit down and look at my business and say, hey, you need to focus on this or whatever.
Yeah.
But I can't seem to find the time to do that because I'm spinning too many plates. But that's free.
That's a good one.
And, you might find a formal mentor for free. I kind of had one for a long time. She was more of a friend, but she was definitely a mentor. She had a lot more experience. She's 13 years older than I am. And I latched on to her, man. I met her at the Professional Photographers Guild, and they met up in Fort Myers. So that's an hour drive. And she was the only other photographer going to those meetings. So we just naturally hey, you want to ride together? And the whole ride up there, I'd be like, what should I do about this? What should I do about that? What should I do about this? Could you look at this picture? Does this look good? So it turned out to be a formal mentorship, even though we never said it was.
Right.
But
it just
really,
sort of evolved.
Really was. I mean, she had so much more experience than I did, and she was so free and giving with her advice. So it really was a formal.
Nice.
I mean, I don't know what she ever got out of it. I mean, we're still friends, but I definitely got the better end of the stick there. So, but those are free. But you can pay. There are coaches. Just if you're going to choose a coach, you have to be really, really, really careful. Do a lot of research, not just referrals, but referrals are important. But make sure this person actually had a photography business.
It's a good start.
The internet is such a great equalizer. I know personally 3 or 4 people who never have grown a business, but they're teaching on the internet how to grow your business. And I don't know, maybe they have some good advice, but they don't really know your business if they've never actually had one. But on the internet, they look so important.
Yes.
So actually make sure that they actually have done what they say they've done if you're going to hire somebody, because it can get expensive.
Yeah.
So we'll talk more about more of an informal mentoring relationship today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, why is having a mentor important?
Well, you always have to improve. And believe me, you are not very good.
Everybody's got room for improvement.
Yeah. And I'm going to talk about myself. I'm not that good of a photographer. I'm not that good of a business person. I'm not that good of a host. I need to improve everywhere. So if I can find people to help me improve,
absolutely,
that's what I should be doing. And you too, and everybody should be looking for always help to improve. And in photography, if you want to just improve your photography, there are free places to get photography critiquing, and part of it is just entering competitions. Well, it might not be free, but it'd be very cheap.
Right.
So you're going to get some free. It might be painful.
Yeah, you have to be prepared for them to say, "Look, you're just not good, and this is what you need to improve on." But I know there are lots of people that are just like, my stuff is too good, you know.
Yeah, there are a lot of arrogant photographers, and it's hard for me as an instructor when I have a lot of photographer friends, lots and lots and lots of them, and they need to take some classes, but they don't, because they really, really think that they're really good. And they could use some critiquing, you know.
When you ask for critiques, you have to be ready to accept them.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, as far as the business goes too, I mean, you know, unless you're making $1 million, $2 million, $3 million bucks a year in photography, you probably need a mentor. Most of us don't do that. But even people who do probably need a mentor, you know? You always want to be improving.
Absolutely. So what should we look for in a mentor?
Well, we talked about that a little bit. You want to make sure that they actually know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And so it might take a little digging to find that out. If you're just looking for a mentor, if you're just going to go, okay, I'm going to go on the internet and find somebody to help me, or go to a local, you know, photography guild and find the photographer you want to help you.
Right.
Then make sure that they actually do know what they're doing, and you know, that they're either successful or that they have more experience. You know, because sometimes people, you could be more successful, but if they have more experience, they may have come into different things that you've never seen.
Right. There's always people out there that have just a different way of doing things that you go, oh my gosh, I could have been doing that all along. That looks so much easier. And yeah.
Like today.
Yes.
What was it that you did today that I said, you know, you can, it was on
it was just a shortcut on Word.
Or Word, yeah. I'm like, you know, you can do this, and you're like, oh my gosh. But I remember when I learned that same tip, so.
Right, so what can a mentor do for you besides help you learn a little bit?
Yeah, well, advice is the main thing. You know, one of my mentors is one of my competitors named Charlie. He's been on the show, Charlie MacDonald, and he, you know, we're more friends, but I consider him kind of a mentor. And back and forth over the years, I've been more successful than he is, and then he's more successful than I am. We're kind of more equal. But I call him still to say, hey, I have to put this proposal in for this job, and I'm not sure how to price it. Can you help me? Or, you know, I'm having a problem with an employee and I don't really know what to do. You know, do you have any advice for me? Or, you know, that kind of stuff. So just somebody to call for advice is nice. And then sometimes just venting. And you'd be surprised where you can get good advice. Because one time, and although I always say I like to whine and complain, but you have to make sure you're whining and complaining to the right people.
Okay.
So I was whining and complaining to my friend Andrea, who was a very successful, she was the owner of a magazine that I did the cover, well, I still do the cover. She just doesn't own this magazine anymore. She sold it. But I was complaining because I was a children's photographer and my business was just kind of disappearing quickly. And she said, well, why don't you start teaching? I'm like, I don't know, I'm not smart enough to teach, you know what I mean? But she pushed me on it. So a mentor can also push you a little bit.
When you need it.
When you need it, because I didn't want to do it. I didn't think I would be very good because I'm not a technical person. Turns out that turned out to be a strength, not a weakness. I didn't know that at the time, though, and she just kept pushing me. Yeah, and she was the right person to complain to and vent.
Nice.
Because she had, you know, her mind worked in solutions.
Nice.
And my friend Kathy is the same way. I walk with her in the mornings. Mostly I complain about my personal life, but her mind just thinks in solutions. So she tries to come up with different things that I may not have thought of.
Right.
So
it's always good to get a new perspective.
So don't whine and complain to people who are just going to hang out there. What is it? Misery loves company. Don't whine and complain to them. Don't vent to them. Vent to somebody who can actually help you.
I like it. All right, so when you approach a mentor, should you think about goals? Like, what do you want out of this relationship?
I think if you're going to have a formal mentorship, you really, really should, because I think that's part of the reason I haven't got the score yet, is because I feel like I need to get organized before I go there.
Okay.
And say, okay, here's everything I'm doing, here's how much money I make, and this one, this one, this one. Of course, maybe if I would do that, maybe I would have the answer already. But I think you should be a little bit organized about what you think you need if you're going to have a formal mentorship, especially if you're going to pay for coaching.
Absolutely.
You better have a clear, because can get expensive. And photographers in general don't make a lot of money. So, you don't want to. Go ahead.
If you're approaching someone with just this open-ended, hey, will you do this for me? It's a little more, I think they'll be more giving if you be more specific.
That's a good point, yeah. You always have to think about what's in it for them, too.
Yes.
Always think that way because,
everybody's time is valuable.
And
you're asking somebody to give up their time for you, you got to give them something in return.
Yeah, I had a student here, and she had called a wedding photographer here in town and asked if she could assist her, and she would assist her for free if she would mentor her. And the wedding photographer just said, well, why would I help you? Become a competitor. And it was hard, man. But it was good that she did it. I said, you got to jump back on the horse, man, because that is a good way. If you work for free for someone, that's a good way to get some help and mentorship.
Absolutely.
I hire interns on a regular basis, usually from the colleges. Some are paid, some are not paid. Depends on what they're doing for me, because if I don't need help, like everybody wants to be a photographer, I don't need help in photography. I need help in busy work,
Yes.
So the people who want to learn photography, I say, okay, but I'm not going to pay you, but you can tag along and I'll teach you as I'm going. And you'd be surprised how few people will do that.
Wow.
And it's like free education, because I'm expensive, Oh.
Okay. So how do we find and approach this person?
And it's funny because you and I are good compliments because you're very shy.
Yes.
And I'm not shy at all.
You talk to everybody.
Everybody. So for me, I'm not like afraid to call people or whatever. So I have to always remember that most people are shy. And I think it's harder for most people because you actually have to step out of your shell and you have to take that risk of reaching out. And you might reach out to somebody who says, why would I help you?
Yeah,
and that's
which would make you retreat even further.
I know. I know.
And maybe this wasn't a good idea.
So you have a couple options. One thing is, look how I found Sarah. I just was there where she was every month, and so was she. And you live in Naples, I live in Naples. Oh, let's ride together. It just sort of kind of happened. So if you're at if you join your photography club, join your photography guild if you're a professional, join the art association. I know I say that till I'm blue in the face on the art associations. If you want to sell your artwork, you need to join your local art association. You need to be where your mentors might be. So it might just happen naturally, right?
Right.
And if you're networking and you find somebody that you want to meet, it's hard maybe to go up and meet them, but if you can have the guts just to say, oh, hi, I'm Peggy, I really admire your work. That's all you need to do. Don't go in and say, hi, I'm Peggy, will you mentor me? That's kind of a major turnoff. Another thing, though, is if you are a photographer and can do event photography, to me, that is one of the best ways to meet successful people I have ever seen. I never wanted to do event photography, but back in 2008, 2009, when I was struggling financially, I started teaching, I started doing event photography. I started doing a lot of stuff, but the two things I still do are teach and event photography. But that event photography opened up a whole new world. And for shy people, you have to go up to people with your camera and say, let me get your picture. You have like an in.
Yeah.
You have a reason just to go up to them and just say, oh, you're such and so, I'm a big admirer of yours or something.
Yes.
And then people like it when you compliment them if it doesn't sound
fake.
Too fake, yeah. So that's another way. I mean, event photography, and I really did snub my nose at it. I just thought it was, because I was so highly trained as a portrait photographer, it just seemed like too easy. And it's not very well paid.
Right.
So I started with a few small jobs, and then I started working for bartering for ads with the local weekly newspaper. And that was another thing that opened up so many doors for me. I met so many people from that, from just doing these little jobs for the newspaper. I wasn't getting paid, I was bartering. But the ads, you know, they help.
They help.
Every little bit helps, and I needed money. I was doing whatever it took. Yeah. And then, okay, so what else? So where do we find them? So that's one thing. Be where they are.
Okay.
Photography groups, networking, competitions. Even if you do like the PSA, what is PSA? Photographic Society of America.
Okay.
Professional Photographers of America, you know, your local camera clubs, your state camera clubs. When you're competing, if your photography is coming up on a regular basis, people are going to start knowing who you are.
It makes it easier to network and branch out.
It does, if you have a little bit of a name. Now the PSA, I believe, has some kind of mentorship program anyway. I'm not positive. I meant to go look up, and Joe is nodding yes. So the PSA, many times, if you join your local camera club, you get automatic membership into the PSA. But you can join without being in a local club too. So I don't know what the website is, but I'm sure you'll look it up and put it in the show notes. All of this stuff you will. So that's another place, the competing. They have the mentorship program. They also have critiquing of your photographs, which is another thing that is really important. But if you just want to cold call somebody, I'm going to give you two options. And if I get distracted, bring me back.
Okay.
So the first one is if it's somebody local. That's the scary, that would even be scary for me, and I'm not that scared. But to call somebody I don't know and try to, you know, have a meeting with them, that's a little harder.
Yes.
It's probably the hardest thing you could do. So let's say I want to meet this really successful businesswoman in town, right? Because I want her to teach me business skills. So first thing I would do is start looking up, what do I know about this lady? What can I find out about her? Oh, she likes, you know, dogs. Okay, I got to put that in my mind. She likes dogs. One of the things that I do is I take pictures out of the newspaper and I send it to them. I did that twice today.
Oh, wow.
So I open up Florida Weekly online, and I look in the society section and in the networking section, and there were a couple people, there were more than a couple people I knew, but there were a couple people that are like, oh, that's a nice picture, and I right-clicked, I saved it, and then I emailed it to them. Hey, I think you look great in this picture. That's
Nice.
it. If you don't know them at all, you could say, hey, you don't know me. I saw this picture. I don't know, that might be too stalky, right?
You don't want to sound like a stalker.
But any way you can contact them, I would probably try to have some kind of written communication first, just to kind of introduce myself to make it easier.
Email is really
If
easy.
you can find their email.
It's not as personal, it's not as scary. You're just typing something out and sending it. There's no emotion really in an email. There's no, like, you can't hear the trembling in your voice, and you won't see you shaking, being nervous, and
It's still hard though.
it is still hard,
right?
but it's easier.
It's easier. So if you can start with an email or even a note, that's again why that event photography is so nice though, because you meet those movers and shakers, and then they know who you are. So that's such a great, or even if you meet them in a networking event, it's such a great way to start. But if you don't know them at all and you want to meet them and you want to start forming a relationship with them, some type of email that would be interesting to them.
Right. Not just asking. Don't just start out by asking.
You'll
for
almost
their
100%
time.
of people will say no. You have to find a way to get something interesting to them. So let's say it was you. You were the person I wanted to meet. First of all, I'd have to find your email, which it might be easier for me to find your address,
Okay.
you know? So I might send you, because maybe your email's hidden, and if you're some famous person, it's probably going to be really hard to find the email. In fact, my son, he's a musician, and somebody wanted to interview him locally here, and of course he's such a big shot. I gave him his personal email, and he was so mad at me. He's
Oh
like,
my goodness.
send those to my what are those people called that take care of your marketing?
PR.
My PR lady. Like, sorry. Anyway, see, I got distracted. What were we talking about? Oh, how to contact them. But I had a thought that I got distracted on.
We were talking about different ways to contact them, and
Oh, if it was going to be you.
yes.
So I can't find your email, let's say, but I can find where you live because that's public record.
Okay.
As long as you're bought, as long as you own a home.
Right.
If you rent, maybe not. I don't know, but it's easy. I find where you live. Then I'm going to start thinking about you. What do I know about you? I don't really know that much. Oh, wait a minute. I know your Instagram. I follow you on Instagram, and you are Musings.
Artful Musings.
Artful Musings. I find something that looks like your artwork on somebody else's site. I can snip a picture of that, stick it in the mail to you, and just say, I found this on such and so's site. Is this your work?
That's a good in.
I just thought of that. Pretty smart.
I like
huh?
that.
But I mean, that's the kind of stuff you have to think about. Like, what if you have a border collie, and somehow I know that, and there's some like border collie, I would look up to see if there's something local that, some reason to kind of contact you. And a written note is so much nicer than an email.
It is,
If
because
you
it's
can.
rare.
But you have to watch that borderline of, you might think, oh my gosh, how'd this woman get my address?
Stalker.
So you have to watch that too. Can you send stuff on Instagram? I don't even know.
Yeah, you can message.
So I could message you via Instagram and just
Right.
say, hey, I saw this work. It looks like yours. Somebody might have stolen your work, or
And artists appreciate that.
yeah.
Really appreciate that.
But anything you can think of. Let's think of more while we're just talking. What else could we do like that? So what if you were going to try to get in touch with me? I'm all over the place. I'm easy to stalk. So what would you know? Well, everybody knows I'm obsessed with my son. That would be the in with me.
Yeah.
Say, oh, I'm a big fan of your son's. Then I would be like, oh, hi, nice to meet you. But I mean, that,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. There's ways in. So email is easier, for sure.
Yeah.
Having a podcast is a great way to meet people
Lots
who
of
are
people.
above your status, right? So how do you meet these people? I mean, you've got some big names coming on our
I
show.
do. Well, I look for people that might be coming down to Florida for a workshop, and when, and then see if I can, while they're here, would you like to do this too?
So there's something in it for them, because
Yeah.
we can, our podcast is downloaded 1,000 times a week or more.
Right.
It's something in it for them
It is.
when they come on a podcast. And then I meet, we meet these big shots in photography. And, who knows what could come from it.
And one big shot leads to another big shot, because we can say, hey, we've had this person on our show. You'd be a good guest too.
Yeah. And that might be the way to get to someone.
Right.
My son has met a lot of famous people in his career, and usually it's because some medium-sized famous person, well, not medium-sized, medium famous person, took a shine to my son's music. And then took him to, he took him to like a roast with James Franco he met, and Sarah Silverman, and Andy
cool.
Dick, and
Yeah,
who you know.
absolutely. Network.
Okay.
All right, so a lot of this mentoring sounds like it's more of a friendship, a relationship with this person. So how do you go about forming a relationship?
Well, I mean, how do you form a relationship with anybody? You be the friend. If
Right.
you want a friend, you be a friend, right?
Exactly.
So
You have to show them you care about what they're doing.
So we just talked about that a lot, find out what they like. What is that saying? I wrote it down somewhere in our notes.
Yeah.
This was Zig Ziglar. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So if you know a lot about somebody or don't know, if you show that you care, then
Right.
And how do you show you care? Just show that you're thinking of them. If you know what they're interested in, then you will be thinking of them more, because when you see that Border Collie event, you'll go, oh, you know, I got to tell Heather about that. Not that you have a Border Collie, but whatever, you know, if somebody saw my son in the newspaper in Tucson, Arizona and sent me a clipping, I would like that.
Yeah.
Just that's kind of stuff that you need to stay aware of. So you need to know the person. You need to know what they like, which means if you are talking to them, you need to listen more than you talk.
Yes.
Which is hard for some of us. And pay attention.
Yeah.
And note. You have to make notes of it in your head so that you don't forget. I mean, you have to really care. You have to really care. You can't just pretend to care. So, I mean, that's how do you become a friendship? And the other thing about friends is you have to see them, or you have to communicate, or it falls away. I mean, there's some people who took classes with me 10 years ago that I was very close to 10 years ago. And I mean, I forgot about them because I haven't talked to them in 10 years.
Right.
And then I have family portraits that I did that I, you know, as you know, we paint over them over time, the ones I used to use for displays. And I don't even remember the people. And I spent time with them. But if you're not seeing them on a regular basis somehow, or they're not in your brain somehow, you know, that's one of the reasons these people, like my friend Charlie, I mean, even when he's not working, he's out at some event because he's like been in magazines about, oh, you know, big photographer in town and all this other stuff, because he's always out and he's always being seen, so nobody forgets about him.
So what are some of the things that we should say to our mentor? Like, I know we need to be complimentary of what they're already doing.
Okay.
To like help break the ice. Like, wow, I've looked at your work. It's really stunning. I love the way you use light to add drama to these images. And could you share with me some of the ways that you do that?
That's great right there. Because you're not saying, would you mentor me?
Right.
You're saying, would you share with me how you got the light? And then they're proud of what they do, so they want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, look at my work, what do you think?
You have to think about them.
Yep.
People like to get compliments.
Yep.
Especially, I know photographers that spend 4 or 5 hours or maybe 12 to 18 hours on one image. Like, you know how much work went into that.
Yeah.
Say, look, you did a great job.
Yeah.
With this stuff, can you show me how you did it?
Yeah, that's
or give me a couple tips.
Yeah, that's a much better thing to say than, will you mentor me? How'd you do that?
Yeah.
You know, just make sure it makes sense, though, you know. I know I had a photo shoot the night before last, and there was another photographer there, and I said, how'd you get here? Because we walked a mile to get to that spot, and I knew she snuck in somewhere, and she wouldn't tell me.
Trade secret.
She's like, we parked in the parking lot a mile away. I'm thinking, no, you didn't. Oh, anyway. So
before we approach them, how can we tell if it's going to be a good fit for us?
Well, that is a really good question. We already talked about you want to make sure that they actually have the experience that you are looking for, not that they have pretend experience or pretend success, right? Because, you know, the internet is such a great equalizer. As I said, you go, you know, you look up, because I do this because I have so many students. I mean, there's been thousands of students come through Understand Photography since I started in 2009. And I'll look at their website and it'll say 10 years, you know, as a whatever photographer. And I'm thinking, they just took my beginner class last week. But because they picked up a camera 10 years ago, they
think they have 10 years experience,
right? So just do your due diligence to make sure that the person does have the experience. The other thing, the experience and the success that if you're trying to get business. If you're trying to get photography advice and they're a beginner but you like their work, then go for it. Because some beginners are amazing.
Yeah.
But if you want
come to find out that they spent their college doing graphic design, and that's why they got so good at photography so quickly, It's like they applied all these other principles that you didn't know about.
That could be, right. So photography, I think you can learn from anybody who you admire their style. Although I do think you should learn the formal. I think you need to know the composition rules. You need to understand lighting, including flash. You need to know how to shoot in the manual mode. You need to know, like, have the foundation.
Yeah.
But the other stuff, you know, people are so creative nowadays. They might be a rank beginner and just come up with some cool stuff. So photography itself, I think you can learn from, you know, if you want to improve after you have the foundation. But the business stuff, you want to make sure that they have the success, and you want to make sure either way they're ethical. You don't need somebody giving you advice that's, you know, like I was trying to get out of that photographer. How'd you sneak in here? She wouldn't go for it. She said, I walked a mile like you did. Okay, yeah, huh? But I mean, that's something. And of course, personality. If you don't like the person, it's not going to work. 'Cause they're not going to like you either, usually. Although you never know. But, but you know, just style, too. I mean, I know sometimes I can be a little blunt. And some people like that. And some people get their feelings really hurt. And I don't mean to hurt their feelings. It's just, you know, they'll say, do you like this leading line here? And I'll go, no.
I think you should have moved 2 feet to the right and put it at a different angle.
I have to think, if I'm careful, I'll think it through before I say something like that. But a lot of times, as you know, whatever comes out of whatever hits the brain comes right out. So I mean, if you're really thin-skinned, you don't want to be around me. You know, I'm pretty direct. Where Sarah, my mentor, she was both. She was a sarcastic person. Well, she still is. She's a very sarcastic person. But she's super, super nice and considerate, except for when she's being sarcastic. So if I said, would you critique this picture, she would be so nice 90% of the time. And sometimes she'd go, what the hell were you thinking?
Sometimes we need that.
So yeah, that's, I mean, you'll know if it's the right person for you.
Right.
I mean, and again, most mentorships are not formal mentorships. They're
relationships.
They're relationships that you're going to learn. You're going to learn. My son and I now, we set, in fact, this would be a good show. We should do a show on goal setting.
That's a good
But
one.
we started doing our goals on Sunday nights together because, you know, he lives in California, I live in Florida, and I don't get to talk to him that much. So this way, we talk every Sunday. And he's got a small business. He's a musician. That's a small business, you know, and I've got a small business. So we have a lot of similarities in the things that we're trying, even though we don't do the same things. But I learn from him on different things because he's very creative, way more creative than I am, and creative in his thinking on business and, you know, his promotional
marketing
ideas.
techniques. And, yeah.
Crazy, yeah. So it could be anybody that you can learn from.
Nice. All right, so now we've got a mentor. We've got this relationship formed between them. What are some of the things that we can do for them to give back?
Oh, that's great because it is all about what's in it for me. Everybody thinks that way. You know, why would they bother with you if they're not getting anything out of it? Mm-hmm. So the first thing you need to do is be very appreciative. So it's so funny. My son, one of the things when he was young, he was like, criticizing me back on his MySpace. Remember that? My mother's a fanatic about thank you notes, even though I'm not that good at it anymore, but I was. And I was really tough on him. You need to send thank you notes. And then he realized, even though he's in the punk rock world, when he was 20, he started thank you notes. And boy, that got him a lot of ground. Then he came up with this idea, which I don't think he does it anymore, but he started buying these little plastic trophies, world's best band to tour with, and would give it to his friends, you know. In fact, I think his wife got world's greatest wife or wife of the year. I think she's got that really a few years now. But I mean, making people feel appreciated, we all need that. We're very needy for appreciation.
Yes.
We want to feel like we're worthy.
And making a difference.
And making a difference. So you have to be appreciative for the advice that they give you. That's where the thank you notes. You have to appreciate their work and what they're doing and compliment them, but don't suck up to them. I had a young woman I was mentoring, and she was getting on my nerves because she was a suck up. And to me, it was evident she was a suck up.
Gotcha. Yeah,
And
you have to prove that you're genuine.
Yeah, I didn't like it. And she didn't do anything wrong. I just felt like she was, I don't know,
Trying a little too hard?
Yeah, exactly. So, just like we said, be a friend. That's the best thing you can do.
Yeah. Right. Going from a more, I don't know, professional mentor to like a photo buddy. Just somebody to like bounce ideas off of. Is there a difference between a mentor and
what
somebody to go
I
out with?
consider a photo buddy somebody that you go out and shoot with.
Okay.
And so I think that's a great idea. I think that you should have lots
Why do you
of
think
photo.
it's a great idea, Peggy?
I think you should have lots of photo. I think you should have lots of photo buddies because you should be out there shooting all the time, right? As much as you can. And for what a photo buddy does for me anyway is it forces me to get out because I have a tendency to work too much. And working too much for me is sitting at the computer, and then I don't get out and take pictures, which I take pictures for work, but that doesn't feed my soul.
Right.
So it forces me to get out into nature where I love to be. That's one thing a photo buddy does for me. The other thing is you'll be with them and you'll be taking pictures of something and they'll come and they'll do a different angle and you're like, oh, that's a good idea. I'm going to try that angle. That kind of stuff. So you're going to learn better photography just from being with them. Then the worst thing, this happens, but it's the best thing, is when you get back home and you process your pictures and you put the pictures up of whatever you took the pictures of, and then they put theirs up, and theirs are so much cooler than yours. And you're like, I was right there. I did not see it that way. But what that does is it helps you the next time.
Right.
So that's why join your photo club, get out there and shoot with other people. And I think it helps to have different people too, not just the same person all the time.
Because everybody's got a different style.
Yeah. And everybody, one of the things we do as human beings is we tend to flock to people who are similar to us. And, I'm an older woman at this point in my life, but hanging out, one of the reasons I like the interns is they come up with some creative things, the teenagers in early 20s, that my mind doesn't think that way.
Right.
So if you can mix up your photo buddies, it's even better. Now that might not be possible because it's not that easy, to...
Right.
It's easy to find photo buddies if you join a photo club. That's what they do. That's the whole purpose of a photo club. So,
nice. How about we summarize?
Summarize. You want tips?
Tips for acquiring a mentor.
Okay.
Or tips for,
Top tips.
Top tips.
Okay. So, first thing you want to do is maybe think of your goals, right? What do you want? Why do you want one? I know why I want one. It's because I need to figure out how to stop spinning these plates, right? I just haven't done it yet. And then make a list of your possibilities. Say you don't have a clue on anybody. So, if I don't know who can help me with this, so I know I want to build an online business, I'm going to start looking maybe in meetup groups to see if there are groups with people who do online business, and maybe public relations groups. I don't know. I don't know who does the online businesses.
Okay.
But I would start looking for local and national people who do it.
Right.
Because it doesn't have to be a local person.
The internet is a pretty amazing thing.
Yeah.
It allows you to reach out globally.
So make a list of, where you could meet them maybe, but if you already know who they are, make a list of who they are and then try to figure out how to approach them. So it could be find out that they like border collies or their son is a musician or
or they're speaking at the local art club, and you should just go listen to them and maybe approach them afterward.
That's great. Yeah, if you can go, in fact, that's one of the things that's on my goals for, well, it's a goal and it's a reward, but I want to go to one of those big internet marketing conferences. And my problem is they're all during our season, you know. I need them in the summer, people. But, you know, when I go, I'm going to make a list of people I want to meet.
Yes.
And try to figure out how to meet them. Just to meet them, not really expecting anything out of them,
right,
but knowing that I admire this person and I would love to have some kind of relationship with them. And that's really the way you should look at mentoring in the first place. If you admire somebody, you want to have some kind of relationship with them. So your goals, your possibilities of who, where
to meet them,
how to approach them, which would be first you need to meet them, or send them an email or whatever, and then from there you have to start building a relationship. And without being stalky. Like if you start seeming like a stalker, you're going to turn somebody off so fast. So you have to take it slow. Always take a relationship slow. It's like dating. You know, you come on too strong and there's no coming back.
Just get the hand. Walk away.
There's no coming back, man. I know so many, you know, friends of mine that are like, oh, I met the person of my dreams, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, you're coming on too strong. You're coming on too strong. And they don't listen. And then, oh, but she's spending all this time with me. You know, eventually she'll realize that she likes me. No, you put yourself in a friend zone, buddy. It's over. They won't realize it. You got to start slow. And then you have to remember it doesn't have to be formal.
Right.
It just can be, anybody can be a mentor to you.
And you don't have to just narrow in on one person. You can have 4 or 5 different mentors for different topics that you want to cover.
Exactly, right. Because I really want to improve my photography too. I'm not going to go to a business person who, you know, to learn photography. I'm going to have a mentor for this, a mentor for that, and this and the other thing. And then, you know what? Like what I do with my son, sometimes just having an accountability partner might be a start.
Yes.
Just find somebody, you know, who wants to meet on the phone every Sunday or whatever.
Or there are lots of different apps now where you can form a group and just have group chats back and forth. I do that with a group of artists that we post works in progress. Hey, what do you think about this? Give me some tips. I have this plan for posting on Instagram. Do you guys have a plan? Like,
Now, will you share some of those apps?
Yeah.
Do you know any off the top of your head?
Slack.
Slack. I've heard of Slack, but I don't know that much about it. So that's good. Tell us about Slack. We got just a few more minutes.
Well, you can invite people to join your little group.
So you put the app on your phone.
Yep, or your
computer.
And then you can invite people to join your little group.
How do you find the people?
I was added through Instagram.
So
it's like,
okay.
Yeah. It's
so this is a whole nother way to find a mentor.
Absolutely. Just, you know, hey, we've started following each other on Instagram. She invited me to join this app, and we just chat. There's probably 8 to 10 people, 8 to 10 artists. We all do similar things, but not the same things. And we just chat. Hey, I post the work in progress. What do you guys think? What should I change?
So it's like a Facebook group,
it's
only
like a
for
Facebook
hipper
group.
people than me.
And there's business stuff, and we share resources, links, and yeah.
That's awesome. I see. I didn't know about. I've heard that name because I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I've heard, but I didn't know what it was. And I guess I wasn't interested enough to look it up because I listen to podcasts in the car, so sometimes I don't remember.
Yeah, and I wouldn't necessarily call it a mentor, but it's just a group of like-minded people that are having the same problems as you are.
Yep.
Just a place to share stuff.
Yeah, that's good. That's another thing. You know, the Facebook groups, of course, is where I live, and we have those 2 Facebook groups, and that's what they're all about. And you know, some of the stuff that I charge, you know, portfolio reviews I charge for, you know, business consulting, for art business consulting, I charge for. but people in my Facebook group, I give free advice constantly.
And there's a Facebook group for everything.
Yep, yep. So you just have to, a lot of it is just to have the guts to put yourself out there. And it's scary. It is scary. Because you could be, you know, I mean, since I started this show, I get, you know, the YouTube is mostly where the haters live. And man, I'll tell you what, there are a lot of people criticize every little thing about my show. And that being one of them, I laugh.
But you just have to deal with it and move on.
Yep, yep. So, all right. So that was good.
That was.
We got everything. We summarized it. And to the audience, I'm hoping you'll do us a big favor and write us a review on iTunes. If you write us a review, I read them all. If I don't know who you are by your handle, I can't thank you personally. If I do know, I'm going to send you an email and thank you so much, because it helps us more than anything come up in the search engines. If you have suggestions for topics or guests, email me at peggy@understandphotography.com. Actually, we need to get you your own email, I just realized, because they could be emailing Heather, not me. I'm Peggy Farren. Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Understand Photography Show. We will see you next Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.